Hi and welcome back, and this is part 2 of starting a new CIC. So I have been documenting my first year journey of starting a brand new CIC, so you guys watching this channel can see what to expect and how things pan out in that first year of running a CIC. So the CIC that I am working on at the moment is called Creador, and that is a CIC that I've started with my partner. Creador is a Cornish word for creator, and it is a Cornish arts and heritage project. So in this video, part 2, I'm going to be talking about where I'm at now, and I'm happy to report we have got Heritage Lottery funding. So we've already got funding, so that's fantastic news and a really good start considering this is only video 2 and we've already got the first 10 grand. So before I get into this video and tell you all about what I'm doing, please hit the subscribe button to subscribe so you stay up to date with everything to do with community interest companies, grant funding, social enterprises and all that. If you want to jump over to my website and look at my course, How to Set Up a CIC and Get Grant Funded in 4 months, then the link is in the description, and that will help you do what I've done, which is basically fast track yourself from setup right through to grant funding in just 4 months. So that aside, so let's get into it. So in video 1, I was just saying basically how, we'd got started, we'd picked the name, we'd set up on Companies House, we'd done all those basic setup things like getting the bank account and stuff, and we'd applied for grant funding for the National Lottery's Heritage Fund. So we applied for that, and good news is we got it first time. So with the Heritage Lottery, they do a process where you do like an expression of interest first, and they get back to you with some feedback, and then you apply. You get invited if they like you to apply again. So we applied and we got it first time. So delighted about that. I have to say the Heritage Lottery are a really nice team to work with. There was lots of sort of toing and froing. They're really helpful. They really want you to succeed. So yeah, it was a really positive experience, really good application form. If you want to see the application form that was successful, I've actually got a video on the channel where when I was actually writing the application, where I go through how I wrote it. So do go and have a look at that. So now we're all started. So this video, I'm going to be talking about what I've basically done today and how I'm going to start this new project. So this is to give you a really good idea of how to go about starting a new project. What are the things to think about? What are the things to plan for? How do you go forward? So now we're funded, we're going to have to do things like get insurance. So one thing you do need as a new CIC, once you get grant funding, is you need to make sure you get public liability insurance. It's also a good idea to get directors insurance. Directors insurance will protect your directors. Obviously now you've got a grant fund in, you do want to make sure everybody feels comfortable. So you want to make sure you talk to your directors, have a meeting with them as soon as you get your grant fund, say, let them know that you've got it. And also everybody needs to agree the payments that are going to be going out. Now, of course, the payments should be the same on the budget. So one thing I do when I get a grant fund is I go back and I look at my original application, because it's quite often months since you actually wrote it. So of course you forget. So what I do is I go back, print it out, so I make sure that I know exactly what my targets are in terms of what the outcomes I need to deliver, what the budget was, and all of that stuff. So because you want to make sure everything rolls exactly how it's supposed to and as you said it would on the original grant form. So I have devised this CIC planner. So this is a project planner that I devised for this exact thing, and this is the first time I've been able to use my own planner for a project. So I got started straight away. So the first thing I did is on the project page, you fill in what your project is, the aims, and just basically a little bit about what the outcomes are, so I know what my targets are that I need to stick to. So this is really helpful because quite often you don't get, or you might not have saved your application or something like that, you might have lost it. So it's always a good idea to go back and find that, or if it hasn't saved, go back to the grant funders and say, can I have a copy of my original application? Sorry, I didn't save it. So go back and get that, print that off, and then I put it into this book because it's just really easy for me then to go back and refer to. So I've got on here my scheduled 12 months. This is a 12-month project. So I've worked out here exactly what I'm going to do each month. So it's all really manageable, set out, and it's not going to be overwhelming. So I'm just going to run through roughly how I'm going to start this. So month 1 is basically going to be the meeting stage. So I'm going to be meeting, I've already met with my partners, I did that on Wednesday. So we're going to be working with, the project, by the way, is on Cornish mining heritage, and it's to do with sort of the 1970s, 80s and 90s, when the mines here in Cornwall closed, and there were a lot of protests and there were a lot of sort of community activism. So my father was involved in that, and my late father left me a lot of documentation, which I'm going to put into a book and make an exhibition of in the local mine, which is called Giva. So Giva Mine, which is a beautiful mine down on the Cornish cliffs. I've been working with them. So on Wednesday, went down to have a meeting with them, just to get really the plan of and get the dates in sort of the diary of when we're going to have the end exhibition. So I've got something to work to, and so my partners know exactly what's going on. So in the lead up, I'm going to be basically just holding some meetings this month. I'm going to be trying to meet up with the local community, because most projects that we run need to be obviously community led as well. So what I'm going to be doing is getting in touch with a lot of the local ex-miners in this community and their children, getting them in. I'm actually going to be recruiting a few volunteers from that mining group. So I'll have some actual ex-miners that will be volunteering, and they'll be helping me put together all my research. So then I've got months, the next sort of 4 months, I'm going to be sort of doing the research, getting all the resources together, trying to get the community to donate photos, to get ex-miners to give me testimonies, all that stuff, get it all together, correlated, and then I'm going to put it into a book. So I'm going to make a book out of it, and I'm also going to have like basically a complete file, which I'll be giving to the local archives. So I'll have one easy book which people can access, and then I've got a larger set of documents that I'll give to the local archives. So those first 4 months are really just going to be like research. And then when we get into the new year, I'm actually going to be obviously getting the book printed and then planning the exhibition, getting everything ready for the exhibition, so getting posters printed, and all of that stuff that needs to be done. It's also going to involve a little art workshop, so we want to engage the young children, especially when they come, make it kind of the exhibition really interactive. So we're going to be using natural source clay from the mine, and we're going to be doing sort of like messy clay workshops with the kids, so they get to sort of just use the resources that are there in the ground, that are from the site, and we're going to be making little sculptures to do with the mines out of that. And then I'm just going to be ending the project with an online exhibition. I'm going to do an online presentation. I'll probably do like a kind of a Q&A online, and then I'll record it and I'll put it on YouTube. So I'm going to be sort of ending the project with those sort of online resources, which are going to be lasting resources. Also going to be distributing the book to like all the local like libraries, heritage centres, and museums. And then the last month is obviously the end project meeting and the evaluation. So the evaluation is really important, and that's something you need to be thinking about from the beginning stage. So when I went to my meeting on Wednesday, I made sure I got a photograph. So that's the really important thing, so that you kind of document everything with photographs as you go along. And also what I've done with this book is I've made sure that you've got like all the pages to record things like meetings. So I've already filled in my first meeting with partners in the book. I've also got pages in the book where you can do just sort of like your daily work as well, just log. So say I spend the day working on the project, I could just sort of write it all down. It just helps you give a record. So if anybody ever goes back and asks you, did you do your project? What did you do? Like if the grant funders audit you, you've got everything in one place. And then I've also started putting in all the dates. So, so I've got all the dates that, like I said, as I'm sort of filling things in. And then I've written the budget here. So as I go along, I'm going to actually tick those off. So the next thing you're probably wondering is, so what about budgets? What about paying yourselves? How soon can you pay yourself, etc.? So I asked the Lottery Heritage, can you pay yourself upfront in a lump sum? So for instance, I'm being paid in this project to do the research, 3,500 to do the actual book production, okay? And then I'm also being paid nearly 2,000 as the project manager. So I went back to the Heritage Lottery and I said, am I allowed to, because it's really good if you get an email, like, train, so you can, if anyone questions you later on, you can prove it. So I thought I'll go back and ask the question. So can we pay ourselves up front in a lump sum? And they said there's nothing to stop you from doing that. They say as long as obviously it's at your own risk, because say you did pay someone up front and then they didn't do the work, then obviously that's a risk for your CIC. But being that it's us that's doing it, we know we're going to do the work. So I was able to just pay myself upfront. So how I did that was I invoiced as a self-employed person to my CIC. Okay, I do actually have an LTD, but for other reasons, to do with tax and wanting to stay under the VAT threshold and stuff like that, I've also got a self-employed account as well. So I invoiced with this instance, I invoiced the CIC from me as a self-employed person. CIC then paid that money straight over to me. Of course, I need to be putting some of that money aside for tax. So you need to obviously factor that sort of stuff in. And then everything else must stay in the account for when you're supposed to pay it out. So other things we've got on our budget are things like Facebook ads, printing the books, printing posters, installing the exhibition. Like I put like a handyman fee down, so we've got somebody that can install the exhibition. I've got volunteer travel on there. I've also got a proofreader on there, because being dyslexic, my book's going to have mistakes, so I need a proofreader. Just stuff like that. And I've also put a contingency budget of £500, which I'm actually really glad I did, because the thing is, when you write these, sometimes you forget something that's really important, and I forgot to put a website cost down. So I'm really glad I've got the contingency budget, because obviously I've put in in it that we're doing an online exhibition, and then I forgot to actually price up the website. So the great thing is I can now just take that out of the contingency budget, and I can explain that at the end. We spent our contingency budget on a couple of things that we forgot to put down, such as a website. So that's how that's going to go. So I'm really excited about the whole project. So this is a great start. So now I've got the money, like I said, I'm going to now go and pay for the website, and I can get rolling with that. And the other thing I've done is I have now launched it online. So one of the first things you do is launch it, and you make sure you hashtag in your grant funder. So I've hashtagged National Lottery Heritage. I've said that it's a heritage project, this is what we're doing. I've posted it all over the shop, on sort of local Facebook groups, and also on our Instagram and Facebook. So it's all there. So I've done everything correctly so far. It's going really well. And like I said, in terms of going forward now, it's just a case of me doing the research, setting up the website and stuff like that. I have booked a professional photographer, which I haven't done the shoot for yet, and that'll help me get really good professional images for the website. So I have booked that and paid for it, so I can't wait to do that as well. So that's my part 2. So I hope that gives you kind of an idea of how to get started with a CIC, and what it's like in those sort of first stages when you get your first lot of grant funding. So stay tuned for part 3, which I'll do in another month or so.